every season has its wins and its failures, the things that really hurt and the things that that actually went better than you thought they would. So today we're going to be sharing those. Since we garden separately, we each have 3 wins and 3 fails we're going to be sharing with each other. The format of the video is going to be a little different. We're just going to be talking to each other, not necessarily to all y'all, but you're welcome to listen in. I have no idea what Rosita's going to tell me, and she doesn't know what I'm going to tell her. So take it away.
Should be good.
Yeah.
All right. My first fail, which I think you probably know about already, is my ranunculus.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. Yeah.
I got 2 ranunculus flowers this year out of 100. It was so bad.
What happened?
There's a lot of things that went wrong, I think. I'm not sure. I didn't plant them in the ground. I had them here in this raised bed, and I only had one cover. It was just the lid of the cold frame, and I didn't have that extra blanket of frost cover. And I'm wondering if they just got too cold, because a lot of them just were mush by the time I figured out. The other thing is, I think then whatever survived the cold, there were a few that survived. The only ones that survived were the ones that were on the furthest west end. So basically whatever got shaded first from the sun, that was what survived. And I think that tells me they just got too hot. I think
so
they
got
just
too hot and too
completely
cold.
roasted. Yeah.
Little divas.
They were too cold when it was freezing, and they were too hot when it was sunny. Yeah. And I think maybe this is my hunch. If they had been in the ground, they would have been better regulated. But because they were, up out of the ground, they were in a raised bed in very loose soil. There wasn't a lot of heat. There wasn't the protection as if they would have been in the ground. So I think my ranunculus experiments are close to over.
You're just going to do what works.
How many times have we done this?
I don't
tried
know.
things.
We've had a lot of ways not to grow ranunculus. A lot. Maybe we should share that sometime.
Yeah. They're going in the ground with 2 layers of cover.
They're just hard to grow if you don't have a hoop tunnel. We've made it work with low tunnels, but we still lose quite a few every year. But
yeah.
Well,
so what's your first fail?
My fail is kind of along the same lines. It was my early crops in my low tunnel. So I had set up a low tunnel. We put it up at the end of January, and I did not realize how dry the soil was in it. I think it was winter brain or whatever. I knew it was kind of dry, but I didn't think they wanted to be too wet. So I planted my ranunculus in part of it, and then direct seeded Nigella or Leia chamomile in the rest of it. And I thought that's going to make a pretty bouquet. Well, it was so dry they never sprouted. Some of my chamomile eventually did. Some of my chamomile eventually did, and then I seeded more. I just went and scattered a bunch of seed when I realized what was happening. And the Orlea and Nigella, I think I got 6 plants of each instead of 30 or 40. So I just transplanted those and ended up putting in the rest of my larkspur and bells of Ireland in that bed too.
Okay.
And as a result, I also lost a bunch of ranunculus. Although those might have got froze too, I'm not sure. But the lesson I learned was that sandy soil does not retain moisture like the clay does that I was used to. That was just, I don't know. And I knew that, but I didn't realize how often I had to water the stuff. So,
well, that's just part of your learning curve with the new garden that you have. There's no way to foresee all of those.
Right. Yeah.
Things.
All right. What's your second one?
Critter damage prevention. I'm trying to take back the wilderness from a zoo. It's so bad. We actually put trail cams up because I wanted to know what's digging around in here. Yeah. And we had a raccoon, we had a squirrel, we've had a lot of birds. I don't think they did a ton of damage, although they've been roosting and dropping all over everything. We've had moles. We had, and then, so that we put up trail cams, and around the garden, thankfully, we've been able to keep a lot of them out because we have 2 layers of electric fence around the garden right now. Okay. Groundhog, rabbit, and possum, and deer. So like it's just a forest. Like there's just animals everywhere. And I've seen some of those during the day as well. So I don't know. I think it may take a couple of years before some of them realize it's my garden and not their hunting grounds anymore.
Mrs. McGregor. I haven't had that trouble in my garden, but I've had it in my flower beds around the house.
Oh.
And I know exactly which critter's doing it. It's our dogs. It's Lucy. She just, I had butterfly bushes planted. Like I have 3 there by the porch, and she literally just broke one in half. And she's destroyed, I don't know how many geraniums, and I don't know. Just
that just...
So I finally have, in desperation, tied some more of my orange baler twine around that bed. Keep her out.
Very aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. So my next fail is the dahlias. And whoa, I messed up on the dahlias. And you knew that already, but I don't even know what I did wrong, except I think I pre-sprouted them wrong. I think they got a little shriveled up, a little dry. And then, in my head, I thought once I get them in the ground with good moisture, they'll just plump back up. Well, I don't know that a dahlia ever plumps back up after it's been dried out. So I planted them. I tried to pre-sprout them because I wanted to make sure they all had good eyes, and I knew they would, but sometimes in transit they don't.
Right.
And I didn't want holes in my garden. Well, I had nothing but holes in my dahlia beds. No dahlias came up. I think maybe 5 or 6 came up okay, and then it just rained and rained and rained, so I thought the rest of them probably rotted. But a few more of those have come up. So you sent me dahlias twice.
3 times total.
You sent me 3 times. Yeah. The initial shipment, and then the second shipment. I planted those, and then I think, did those get rotted? I forget what happened. We've had a lot of weird rain. Like in Arkansas, when it rains, it pours. And so the ground, we have sandy soil, but it just kind of, I don't know. It stays, it'll rain an inch at a time, and then it just like overwhelms the garden. But planted them again. A lot of those didn't come up. Planted them again. And I think those are actually sprouting now. So.
Okay, good. Fingers crossed. I crammed that last box so full of dahlias.
I still have some.
I should have actually kept a few for myself because I have some holes in my bed now.
Do you? Oh no. Do you have all the dahlias planted?
I have most. I still have a few tubers here and there that are left, and I think I have holes for about half of them that I can fill with my extra tubers. But then the rest, I don't know. Might just have to plant some cosmos or who knows what.
What kind of disgusted me about all of this was I had planned my dahlia beds, and I still had the map of how I'd done it. But the second time I planted them, I didn't say what I put where, so I didn't really know what did and didn't come up. It is a jungle out there. So for dahlias, you want to keep them, all the ones that grow the same height, kind of keep those in the same row so your staking is easier. But I may have 2-footers and 10-footers beside each other. I don't even know.
Yeah. I tried something different this year. I know I shouldn't be trying experiments with my new garden, but I went and did by color, more or less.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
But then that means I've got, a cafe beside a Sweet Natalie maybe. And like those are not the same height. So we'll see. But
some of them are pretty dramatic, but
put an extra layer of twine around the top to corral the really tall ones, and that should be fine.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
I'll see what I can do about that.
I hope that next batch does better.
It will.
So another fail, and this is more kind of general, but I had a number of seeds that I didn't research very well that did not do well.
That's my fail too. Do what we say, don't do what we do.
Yeah. So rhubarb, I've never grown that before. I have no idea what it requires. There's a general rule of thumb that you cover a seed 4 times its diameter. So let's say a seed is, 1/8 of an inch. Well, you multiply 1/8 of an inch, which would be what, 1/2 inch? So you would plant it at a 1/2 inch depth, So I thought, well, rhubarb seeds are pretty big. I'll just take that general rule and just stuff them down in there. And I mean, they didn't sprout. I put them outside. They didn't sprout. It was total bust. So it may have been old seed. I don't know. My chives were the other thing. I've never grown chives before. And I'm wondering now if they aren't more like onions, maybe. So
Probably.
I'm going to
Cool.
do a little research.
Both of those, I think, are cool. They want
Right.
coolness to sprout. I don't know. I've never grown rhubarb, but it's an early spring crop. My big
Then two
disappointment
others.
Sorry,
Two
go ahead.
others I've grown before that did not do well for me. For some reason, Orlea. Like that stuff, I got 4 plants out of my whole thing. And white cosmos, I got 2 plants out of that whole planting. And I think the cosmos may have been bad seed because I think you had said yours didn't do well.
That is
right.
my failure number 3 is cosmos. Like, can I not grow them? I planted them 4 times. 4
Oh, my.
different times. 4. So I started them first inside, not a one sprouted. So I tried something different inside, not a one sprouted. I know you should probably direct seed those, but I wanted them earlier. So then I planted them right in the garden, not a one sprouted. And so I tried one more time inside, not a one sprouted, not one.
So
I
is
don't
this
know.
all the white ones, the Purity Cosmos?
Purity
Okay.
Cosmos from Johnny's
That was-
Seeds. Let's call them out. A terrible termination. Do better.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Well, I got that new, what is it? Apricota or apricota? I don't know how you say it.
Do you not have the Purity Cosmos?
I have 2 of those. 2 of those sprouted for me.
Okay.
But then there's 2 other kinds. I tried some new kinds. I can't remember the varieties names now. And those are fine. And they're growing. They're like 2.5 feet tall in the garden. So
Nice.
those were fine. I don't think it's the Cosmos. I think it was just that one batch was maybe not the greatest germination.
I think so.
Which is unusual. Johnny's usually has good germination.
Yeah, I don't know.
So how about some wins?
Yeah, let's try some wins.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So while we're on the topic of seeds, let's talk about some wins with what sprouted. I don't know. I just feel ridiculously accomplished that I could start anything from seed. I didn't know if I could. I thought I could, but I don't know. After my failure of the low tunnel, that just sort of took the wind out of my sails. But the things that I'm really tickled about are lavender. I started a lot of my bedding plants for my flower beds by the house. Geranium and alyssum. Those are doing beautifully. What else? Oh, foxglove. I have foxglove blooming in the garden.
Nice.
I just didn't know if I could do that or not.
Nice. Oh, it's blooming already?
It's blooming. My
That's
chamomile, I think
awesome.
or foxy, the purple one, is blooming.
Okay.
And then tomatoes and onions. The onions were, I'm just glad for everyone I get because I killed a lot of onions too. And tomatoes, I don't know if y'all remember, had I talked about it on a YouTube video or was it Instagram, but they looked terrible for a while, but they've all beautifully recovered. There was one tomato I really wanted, and that's one that Mom has been saving seed from. It's an heirloom tomato for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. So she gave me some seeds, and I do have 2 of those plants. And so I don't know. I just feel really accomplished about that. How about you?
That's awesome. Okay, let's see. Do I have... Okay, I'll talk about my seed wins too, because I got one of those here too.
Okay.
I started for the first time ever, I started Lysianthus and eucalyptus and geranium from seed. And they all have sort of a reputation for being hard to grow, and they're all doing well. If the Lysianthus doesn't get dug, I should have a fine crop.
Nice. So I need to learn how to do that then.
It actually wasn't that hard, and I don't know, do I just have the right temperature, the right setup? I had done research. I actually did research for those. That's probably why they sprouted. But it really wasn't that hard. And the eucalyptus, the only thing I would do different with that is I would start it a little earlier in the season because that stuff takes so long to get big. But I'm hoping I have that. Who knows? Maybe next year. I should grow it, multiple years in a row before I call it a success. But I'm pretty tickled with it.
No, that's great.
We've always bought those in as plugs.
Right. Spend a lot of money on them. So another small win was that we got everything mulched and irrigated in time. Having done this for 8 years, I know that we have not always done that, and then we played catch up and struggled the whole year. So it's pretty important to me to get that in place. But how we actually did it, so when I laid the beds, we put a pretty thick layer of leaf compost on them. And then I just planted right into that. I just used a kitchen knife. I need to get one of those planting knives, but I didn't have one. So I just used the kitchen knife to pull a hole and then pop it in. And it was the easiest, low effort way of planting. Like I don't know. So, and then the irrigation, I kind of had to tunnel the irrigation down through the mulch. And that got done because of Myron. Like he literally, I don't think I would have irrigation if it wasn't for him. He mapped it out, put the order together, and pretty much took charge of setting it up too. But anyway, shout out to him for that.
That's great. That's fantastic. It's such a good feeling to get that in.
Yeah.
My irrigation still isn't in.
Do you have it? Okay. Well, you got time, man.
It's just been a rat race. I won't, some of the beds I won't be able to get it in anymore because the plants are too big.
Yeah.
But I'll put it on my dahlias yet.
Yeah.
That is actually one of my next things is that I kept my plants alive for 3 weeks without rain with no irrigation. Yeah. What I did is I went out and hand watered pretty much every evening. Like I need to start doing that again until I get my irrigation in. But it was the kind of thing where you feel a little discouraged about stuff, but if you just show up every day, you make this decision in your mind, you're going to water everything because you're not losing all the work that you did. And then you just do it. Like, and I actually really enjoyed, it was warm during that time and we live in town, so it was a lot cooler out at the garden. And so it was also just this little breath of fresh air, you know, go out to the garden in the evening and
fun little evening ritual to do.
Right.
I actually had a hard time narrowing down the wins and fails, but my last win is only planting what we like to eat or the flowers that I like or wanted to grow. Like right sizing it.
Smart.
I guess time will tell. You know, right sizing is relative because we planted 4 yellow squash plants and about a half a plant would be enough for us. So we've been giving away lots of yellow squash. But I think the only thing that I planted for food that I don't know that we're going to like to eat is eggplant. And that was a moment of weakness at a garden store. I just think eggplant are so pretty.
Eggplant parmesan.
I do make eggplant parm, but I don't know.
Well, my last one it was hard, like you said, to narrow it down. And this is not very profound, but I have a garden.
No, that is profound. If people knew how often we wanted to quit.
To be really honest, I wasn't sure if I'd get to the place where I could harvest any flowers.
I know.
Well, and I stop and think about it. This was all grass up until last October. And like you had a garden last year because Myron had done some stuff. Yeah. And so you weren't starting completely from scratch.
Yeah, you're right.
I think sometimes I felt so behind and so overwhelmed and I don't know. I have a garden. I have stuff growing in a garden.
Let's pause and enjoy that thought for a moment.
I think it's good to stop and see what all you have accomplished. Sometimes I can be the type who there's so much to do. I just want to get it all done. And often when I'm talking to Morgan about what I got done today, I hear myself say basically that I didn't get enough done. You know, I got this done, but I didn't get that done.
I know. I'm so
I can be very, very determined and very goal driven. And I don't always like that. It's okay in moderation. Yeah. But I think it
depends on your personality, but all of us can benefit from just taking time to celebrate the wins instead of seeing what needs to be done or what went wrong.
Right. And all of the stuff that went wrong this year, maybe it won't go wrong next year, you know?
Yeah, no.
Learn from the mistakes.
Probably something else will go wrong.
Well, then you learn from that. You know?
I know.
You keep weeding out the failures, and then eventually they'll be, you know, hopefully less.
Yeah, I just keep telling myself that all the work that we've done this year, I won't have to repeat next year. Like setting up of the beds and figuring out the map of the garden and doing all the paths and the structures.
Right.
I'm sure I'll move things around, but yeah. So we would love to hear what your wins and your fails were this year as well. Misery loves company. So if you want to comment below and let us know what went right for you or what went wrong, feel free to do that.